Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. Today, I've got a really exciting guest. I've got Mike Tappert here. He is the president of Upper West Exteriors. They're located in Seattle, Washington. Really excited to have you on the show. Welcome to Builder Stories, Mike.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me out. It was great meeting you at Connect a couple weeks ago. Excited to kind of share my story and how I've worked with JobTread and some of the other related companies to JobTread, a lot of the guys that were at Connect. Excited to share with you and everybody.
Yeah, appreciate that. Well, why don't you kick us off? Give us a little bit of background, who you are, how'd you get into construction? What do you guys do? Things like that.
Yeah. So actually originally grew up just outside Chicago. Worked for handyman in high school, worked with roofing companies all through college. Ended up moving out here to Seattle after college. Long story short, kind of started a professional career, went and got my MBAs, working for big manufacturers, all that kind of stuff. Decided I didn't really want to live in an office, and I started firefighting, which is kind of a thing I always wanted to do since a kid. So I've been a professional firefighter out here in the Seattle area for the last 10 years. And about 5 years ago, the schedule of firefighting, it's a lot of hours, but we also get a lot of full days off. So I was getting bored, wanting to be productive. I started general contracting after renovating my own house, kind of building my own sub list, so to speak, for projects that I was doing on my own. And then people started asking me, hey, do you got this guy? Do you got this guy? So I started referring him out and like, hey, if I start putting a schedule around this, maybe I got a business here. So started general contracting about 5 years ago. That's when I founded Tappert Homes LLC. And we were just taking, all the jobs that came in. Hey, do you do driveways? We're the best at driveways. Googling how to build a driveway, trying to figure it out, making sure, we could get it done, finding a subcontractor for it. So over some time, realized that was not a very sustainable plan. Found what I like doing, what we're good at doing. I kind of fell back to my roots as being a third generation roofer, with my great grandpa and my grandpa both having a roofing company in Chicago, starting actually 100 years ago, 1926, they founded the company. So I niched down, created Upper West Exteriors as a new brand, and now we focus just on primarily residential shingle roofing. It's our bread and butter.
That's awesome, man. It's really appreciate your service as a firefighter too. I know that's a ton of work, and you're risking your life to help others. So thank you for that.
That's great job, super fun, love doing it. But
it's interesting. I feel like a lot of firefighters do end up building construction businesses. I've met a lot of people, so it seems like it must give you that kind of that opportunity to really spend that focused time when you're not working at the firefighting. Has that been the case?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a lot of character traits, I think, that cross over between firefighters and construction business owners. A lot of pretty, alpha, aggressive, I can solve that problem kind of attitudes. And in firefighting, we're going into buildings that are actively trying to take themselves down. So we do a fair bit of education on building construction, how the pieces are put together. So it kind of leads itself to guys making some construction companies or at least doing it on the side. We also get a lot of people from the trades into firefighting. So they already have the construction background before they even start firefighting. And then they're like, I got more time off than I thought I might have, and they'll start something up. So
yeah, I mean it makes total sense that understanding how buildings are constructed would be a valuable skill set for a firefighter.
Yeah.
And so you said you also have an MBA, is that right?
Yeah. So I went to Seattle University for my master's in business administration. And it's actually kind of probably the spot where it got me first interested in kind of construction again. One of my main projects I worked on as I was wrapping up that program was kind of a construction review of the Bullitt Center, which is a top LEED certified net positive, sustainable building. So kind of getting into how they did some unique construction strategies and material selections there, I think kind of kicked off some of that renewed interest in my adult life and, getting into construction. So
That's awesome. So it sounds like from early on, again, working as a handyman, doing remodeling, like third generation roofer, like all signs for you have pointed to construction.
I definitely ignored those signs for a while, and I think I finally figured it out and found it. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. So I'm curious, back when you said you basically remodeled your home and then
Hmm.
ended up deciding to take some of those same subs that you're working with, some of the same kind of people and form uh Tapper Homes,
Yep.
as a GC originally. Like I'm curious, like what was that the first business that you had officially started?
I've had a couple smaller business. My wife and I rented out paddle boards here out on Lake Washington in the summers. Just kind of little stuff like that, mostly hobby businesses. And that's kind of how, this whole construction business started for me. Being a full-time professional firefighter was, oh, it'll just be something I do on the side. And I realized I could get to a really small level, and have wild chaos and not have enough money to pay for any systems or, help employees, and it was just kind of turning into a nightmare. So I made that decision to scale it big enough where I can start hiring, I can start investing in systems and marketing, and kind of having that pipeline build itself, to keep the lead flow coming in to sustain it all. I was kind of in that no man's land for a couple of years where it was all chaos, all stress, not really any money on the other side. Um, and that's actually about the time when I reached out to one of the partners with JobTread, Winrate Consulting, because I was really trying to figure out what to do with my business and what to do with my life. So I got hooked up with Mike Claudio, Sam Kaufman, and the guys out there, starting their SBA program. And one of the first questions I had actually, that brought me to JobTread, I just put in the chat there while they were talking about something else. I said, "Hey guys, I'm looking for a project management, production management software. What should I use?" Because that was the big question coming into this. And I just got assaulted with links and recommendations to use JobTread. So, and this was end of 2023, I think. So I know a lot of the guys over there were early adopters of JobTread as well. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
yeah.
Appreciated Mike and team. Um, I'm curious though, like, when again, you talked about sort of the chaos early on, and I hear this a lot, just you're willing to take any project that comes in the door, even if you don't know how to do it, you'll go figure it out. How did some of those early projects, I mean, how did they end up working out for you? I mean, were you able to pull a profit? Like, did you have any horror stories, that you might want to share?
Yeah, it kind of started off. The very first client I had was probably the perfect, construction client to have. I told them they'd be my first client. I went and got some questionable contract off the internet, made very little adjustments to it, sent it over. They flipped right back to the cost page, signed it, wired me at half the deposit up front. Um, and it was a whole home remodel, like top to bottom, moving toilets, major plumbing projects, kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, paint, all the things. And this was right during COVID. So we started hitting material delays, labor delays. So I'd have to give them that dreaded call like, hey, this stuff's not going to show up for 3 weeks and it's kind of blocking everything else we're doing. So we got to push, the timeline back 3 weeks. Oh, don't worry. We love our Airbnb. Take your time. Like literally the best clients ever. There was 2 pieces of blue tape at the very end, super minor things. And every time I requested a draw, it got wired to the account the same day. Best clients ever. So that was the very first experience. And then quickly I ran into the very worst experience with the client. You know, Basically I was running it the same way, but not having everything really lined up really well, not being able to provide a schedule, not being able to provide, documentation, or having to go back through a stack of papers to find everything. Just really strained that relationship. And it was a project again that just drug itself out. A lot of that was, my issues, some with the client issues. Obviously I take ownership of all of it because I need to manage both ends of that. Um, but that was kind of that last straw that guided me towards getting some help and getting some clarity around what I was actually doing. So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
obviously it's probably a whole lot easier for somebody who just has an investment property, that they're renting out. They're not having to live there day to day. If it
right.
takes a little longer, kind of whatever, right? But, was that harder client? Were they living in the home?
They were living in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, trying to move back into it. They had a fire issue, so they were trying to get back into there as soon as possible. And so dealing with insurance, just the whole thing. Uh, Entirely my fault for not having good documentation and planning and trying to run the whole thing solo. Um, but it was the one that kind of broke my back and got me to actually focus on what I was doing and build a plan and build a system around it. So.
So at what point though did you decide that, like, this wasn't kind of just, a hobby, just a, some fun little side project? Like, when did you decide that you wanted to build, a legitimate business that, was going to be able to ultimately hopefully run itself, I guess.
I think it was a couple years ago, right when I started with working with win rate. They did a really good job of breaking down the why behind everything I was doing. Not just to make money or have some profit or have extra vacation money, but like what was really in my head and in my heart behind what I was doing. So I actually finally set up the mission, vision, values. I'm like, man, I can really impact a lot of people. We can provide that better experience, make sure we keep those, kind of questionable contractors away so customers don't get cheated. We can be that, the stand up contractor in the market that does the right thing to help out, Seattle area neighbors. So, yeah, it was probably about 2 years ago that I decided to get organized and kind of put the foot on the throttle and make this a real going venture instead of just something I have no idea what the revenue is going to be next month. I have zero pipeline. So yeah, I spent the last couple years really focusing on what all that clarity means, what direction do we want to go in, where's our next lead going to come from, what hats can I remove for myself and give to my project or my operations manager Kyle, my new sales guy Dennis. Starting to offload some of those hats so we can keep focusing and growing that business. So that's been a fun, long but fun process over the last couple of years of really getting into the systems, working, building out our JobTread catalog, building out our estimate templates, getting our marketing partnerships together, getting the Google ads going, getting the Meta ads going, working on our social media, everything start to finish to actually make a full business that can start to run itself. I think there's been 2 times now where I've taken trips either to a win rate event or just a quick family vacation, where I think it was super cool to see, I was gone and then roofs were still getting produced while I was gone. And that was kind of that light switch for me that, hey, we're actually doing something here. There's actually a going business now. I don't need to be here every day. Otherwise everything shuts down. So I think that just, 2 years ago, making the decision to put the throttle down, and now in the last 6 months or so, taking some, steps back a couple days at a time from the business and seeing stuff still getting produced. Um, that's really reinvigorated that, like, okay, go time. Let's get this
Yeah.
business going.
That's awesome, man. And I've known Mike for many years now. He is an incredible human who genuinely cares about others. So I'm not surprised in the least to hear that. Like, it sounds like that was really, one of the major sparks for you to kind of take it to that next level and try to dig deeper to understand, why you're doing this, what is motivating you, how are you going to build a successful business. And I've heard from many who are part of the program. I mean, again, it can be life changing. It can,
Oh,
be very transformational. I'm curious, can you share a little bit more, like, what has it been like, working with WinRate and being part of, their program? Because I think a lot of people, they hear, oh, it's just another coach, and it's, I don't need a coach, I don't have the money for that. That's too expensive. Like, that's, what's that going to do for me? Like, I'm curious to kind of dig a little deeper on that.
yeah. So I started in there. I was concerned about that investment also, right? Because I had no idea where my next project was coming from. So even $300 or whatever their going rate is now for their small business academy, was like, I had a truck payment. That was my only overhead at the time, right? So I'm like adding quite a bit of overhead. But I kind of took a shot with their small business academy, which is like a weekly group call, and they do master classes. It also gets you access to their quarterly events. Um, so I started with that to kind of, I don't know, break down my own walls about, what is coaching and what can I get out of this. And I did that for about 9 months. During that 9 months, I went to my first in-person quarterly event out in Greenville. And that single event was a huge pivot in my personal life and the business. Just kind of going out there. I was definitely had a lot of personal issues, had some issues, with the marriage and at home. The business was stressing me out, stressing the marriage, stressing our family. I was just gone doing contracting or gone firefighting, probably drinking too much, not really having any vision or alignment. And literally halfway through that first event, I made a decision to stop drinking, start focusing on my fitness again, start focusing on the business. I'm 50 pounds lighter than I was from that event. Haven't had a drink in 670 something days now. And way more clarity, vision on what I want for my family, for myself, and for the business. Um, I don't want to, it's hard to say. I know Mike's always had trouble describing exactly what win rate is. It is business coaching. Yes, we get great, tactical ideas and leadership, guidelines, strategies about how to run the business, what KPIs you should use, the whole gamut. But they spend as much time, if not more, working on helping you work on yourself and figuring out why you're doing everything you're doing. Because once you get that vision figured out, it makes doing all that kind of tactical work way more impactful, and easier to do, frankly,
Yeah.
because you can see the why behind why you're doing it. So um, it's very hard to describe. It's way more than just business coaching, but it's not like a life coach. It's very very hard to describe. Kind of addresses a little bit of everything, but it's absolutely changed my life. And I've seen other people, go through the program and put the work in, um, make tremendous strides in their personal and business lives. So
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's awesome. And again, I've had similar experiences with Mike. At one point, me and my wife were struggling a bit. He sent me his, kind of one of his recorded, sort of, he did this talk about, marriage and how to, do his, like the kind of the annual planning and the quarterly planning, kind of meeting up and setting goals. And my wife do all that now, and it's so helpful for us, and it's really helped to get us back on the same page, working together as a team.
for sure. Yeah, it's crazy if you just talk to the people that you're working with and
Yeah.
everybody's on the same page. How much better and easier stuff gets.
Yeah,
So
I think the
yeah,
whole, again, like the thing that a lot of entrepreneurs I feel like they struggle with is like, again, they say kind of being at the top is very lonely, and I can understand that, but at the same time, man, like there's this like massive community of people that you can surround yourself with if you put yourself in the right place at the right time, get that network of people that are going through the same thing. Like, I mean, what an incredible opportunity to build a support system around you. And I think the win rate, community does that, better than most. And just seeing like, that ability to kind of take down those barriers and have those hard conversations that I'm sure a lot of people, especially men, are not, good about opening up and, sharing that type stuff. But man, when you do, it's such a
Yep.
relief, it's such a burden just off your shoulders.
Definitely. Yeah. And, stubborn old men, right? We don't want to ask for help. We know how to do everything. So they're really good about kind of protecting, especially their quarterly events, protecting that room, making sure the right people are there. Really allows people to be vulnerable and get to the stuff that they need to get to, in a really productive way, that I haven't seen anywhere else. Grad school, university, I've never seen anything
Yeah.
so impactful on anybody. So
Man, and congrats on what almost, I guess, coming up on
almost
2 years
2 years.
not drinking. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I quit. I guess it's been about 14 months now for me. The beginning of what would it be 24. So no, sorry, 25. And then yeah, so I'm in kind of my second year. I mean, my
Yeah.
wife quit drinking. I was like, oh well, I'm with no reason for me to sit here and buy drinks if
Exactly.
drinking alone. And ended up
Yeah.
thinking, man, if she can do it, I can do it. And
Yeah.
so I've been on that journey with you. I'm curious to hear from your experience. I mean, how has that affected you, personally and professionally, cutting out the alcohol?
Yeah, I think it's part of a lot of changes that I've made. One, I've turned into early to bed, early to rise. Our daughter goes to bed at 8:30, and we just go to bed with her, same time. So I'm up at 4:30 to 5 in the morning. Get down to the gym, so I get my fitness time in. Obviously, if I was drinking every night, that'd be a lot harder to get up at 4:30, every day to go chase that part of it. But I think it all just kind of ties in together. Ending the day well, right? Not being drunk or sleepy or get bad sleep because of, you've had a couple drinks, to being able to wake up earlier, get that workout done, get your energy up for the day. Or, occasionally I'll sneak in the office and get some stuff done that I know I needed to before anybody's up and have any distractions. But just being able to start the day on such a strong foot. Team comes into the office, people go out on sales appointments, we're ordering materials, we just have energy already started in the day, and you get through the day, get into the evening, and we will spend time with my wife and daughter, go to gymnastics and tumbling and ice skating and do all the things, and then come back, get to bed, start it all over again.
Yeah.
It just takes out a lot of wasted time, a lot of distraction, allows, the brain to stay sharp and focused, which, between 2,500 hours a year firefighting and then running the business also, is trying to maintain as much time as I can has been, a priority, and cutting out drinking was an easy choice because that was just eating up hours that
Yeah.
I couldn't get back. So
Good for you, man. I know it's not easy at first, but I don't even crave it anymore. It's, it's like, now I'm good. It's
I
kind of
feel
gotten
like once you
easy.
get through that, you get through that first year of your first birthday without drinking, Christmas, New Year's, 4th of
Yeah.
July. Once you get through the first of all of them, I feel like then it's like,
Yeah,
we're
for
good.
sure.
Yeah.
So what's your, tell us a little bit, what's the team look like today that you've got in place?
Yeah, so pretty lean. We have Kyle who sits behind me. He's our operations manager, so he runs our back end office systems and then kind of supplier relationships. So he'll do our material orders for roofs, but he also does our manages our JobTread, Asana, logs all our marketing leads, works with our Stinect CRM, making sure that's all updated, the leads are flowing through properly, getting them scheduled and assigned to Dennis, who is our new roofing pro, our sales guy. So he's out running the sales appointment. Kyle's ordering the materials when jobs get sold. And then we have a roof boss that's full time, like roof um, foreman, so to speak. So he runs our jobs for us, and then we have a bunch of people that are part-time on call, just because our volume isn't high enough to have full-time W-2 roofing crews. We switched from a subcontractor model to in-house W-2 late fall last year. We wanted to offer more, roof services, so roof cleaning, gutter cleaning, maintenance packages, kind of as a sales pipeline, getting out on that customer's house once or twice a year, giving them that roof report so we can be the first one out there to give them a roof replacement bid, and find issues early, right? So we can prevent them from having to get a drywall subcontractor or a mold remediation for their attic. Um, so wanting to take in some of that, I saw a lot of overlap in just the volume of work we were doing, where I could have, our roof boss do some of those maintenances and cleanings. And then on days when we have roof replacements, he would just, run that job, work with guys, get that done, and then go back to the maintenance side until we sold our next roof. This year, we might have to adjust a little bit. We have pretty big goals. We wrapped up last year just shy of $1 million in revenue, and we're aiming for 4.5 this year. So we
Wow.
got big goals for this year. We've loaded up on our marketing spend with the Builders of Authority team. So they're running our Google, Meta, all our SEO website. But yeah, we're looking at doing 200 roofs in Seattle this year, which should help us get that goal. So big
Nice.
scale from, less than 300K in 2024 to hopefully 4.5 this year. But that we've spent so much time over the last years building the systems, building the processes, documenting things, setting the KPIs. Um, we kind of have the formula locked in. So we just need to put the inputs in the front of the work of lead generation and, um, marketing and getting out into the community and just push it through the system. And we should get the output that we want on the other side. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to dig a little bit more into the marketing and all that there, but like, so
yeah.
back when, you had Tappert Homes and you decided to transition to roofing, aside from being a third generation roofer, like what else sort of led you to want to niche down and to get a little bit more focused?
Yeah, I think it started originally with, having that bad experience with that one client, having to be in their home all the time and feeling like I was always in their way, keeping them from living their life. The interior of the home is such a like emotional space for the homeowner. They're there all the time. They see every little detail. So being able to pull myself out of the interior of somebody's home was kind of my first thought. Like, let's look at exteriors, right? As long as it keeps the house dry and it looks good from the curb, people are generally happy. Um, so that was kind of what pushed me in that direction. And then starting to look at the actual business model, looking at cash flows. Roofing is a great product that it's a large project. It's somewhat capital intensive for the homeowner, but it's a pretty quick turnaround, right? So we're able to get the lead come in, go out, run the sales appointment, follow up with them, get that sale closed. We partner with great suppliers like SRS and ABC, so we always have the materials that we need available. And then, get the materials delivered. We're, from start to finish on the whole process, including, cleaning up accounts receivable, usually it's less than 2 weeks. Where we can run a siding job that takes 3 weeks just to produce. So then our cash flow takes, a lot longer to get through the full system. Yeah, you get the deposit up front, but to actually close it out can be over a month later. And especially compared to, whole home remodels, it can be 12 months just for permitting, right? So wanting to shrink down that whole kind of customer life cycle, start to finish, and more of a, in a retail, we do retail roofing here in Seattle. There's not a lot of insurance work. We don't get hailstorms. We'll get wind gusts occasionally that hit 80 miles an hour, but we're not getting hurricane force winds. We'll get tornadoes. Occasionally a branch will fall through somebody's roof, but a lot of times that's just a repair. So we're not dealing a lot with insurance. So really focusing on that retail roof repair kind of 2 week customer journey from start to finish, was kind of what led us down to that, to keep niching down to just roofing. Because even a year ago, where our plan was roofing, siding, and decks, it wasn't until really December of 2025 that actually I was talking with another win rate coach, and he, Dave Owens, and he kind of broke me down. He's like, dude, why are you doing siding? I'm like, oh, we need to. I definitely had some scarcity mindset around not having enough roofs to do. And he asked me a great question. How many roofs are there in Seattle? I'm like, there's enough roofs in Seattle for me to hit all of my goals just doing roofing. So we niched down further to keep the, catalog nice and clean, the training nice and clean. My sales guys just need to know how to sell roofing, nothing else. Our supplier relationships simplified again. We just need the roofing division of SRS, right? ABC. We don't need to worry about siding and all the other things. It's just working on a roofing material catalog with them. I think it just makes us more and more the roofing expert,
Yeah.
having to know just about that, not having, siding and decks and all the codes and things for all those things as well. So, it's just a continual evolution of niching down into what makes sense for us. So,
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. How did you, so from a marketing standpoint, though, I mean, you probably had to make, decent investment to sort of transition the brand and, kind of assume you probably had a website before. Now you got, different brand, different website, different processes. How did
yeah.
that?
Yeah, so I probably decided to do the rebrand. I want to say it was the second half of 2024. So I kind of stepped back from selling any general contracting jobs. At the time, I literally had a truck payment and, $25 a month for the website I had built myself for Tappert Homes. So I kind of took a step back from selling any jobs. Spent pretty much that fall and winter on redoing our marketing. So I developed a new brand book. We got our mascot, Bigfoot Burton. Fun story, Burton is actually my grandpa. So
Okay.
I wanted to kind of mascot that was, could deal with the weather, hardy, Pacific Northwest legend, right? And then, Burton being the second generation roofer in our family gave him that name. So Bigfoot Burton. So anyway, built the whole new brand book. And then reached out to Adam McChesney with Builders of Authority, brought them in to build the new website. So we officially launched Upper West Exteriors just about a year ago, February 2025. It took probably 4 or 5 months to redo that branding, how to rewrap the truck, get new shirts, get new hats, that whole new website. And then, moving all our documentation over to Upper West Exteriors, the bank, all the things. There's always more that you think that
Yeah.
has your company name on it. So going through that list and getting that all updated. Yeah, it took about 4 or 5 months. And I'm really happy with how it came out.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
So,
so, Adam's awesome too. I know him
oh
really
yeah.
well for several years. So, it sounds like you're kind of all in with everything from a marketing standpoint. Like, what would you say have been some of the most impactful, you know, efforts that you've done?
I think for us, right, retail roofing is pretty competitive, right, in the Google space. So those paid ads are super expensive to get through, get the clicks on. So we invested early with a pretty aggressive SEO package to help us start climbing organically. Knowing that we have many big roofing companies out here that have been here for decades, and they just own, that front page, that first page of Google. So investing heavily in SEO to try and get the organic leads up. And we just crossed that year, like I said, with the website, and organic lead flow is definitely picking up substantially in the last couple months. Um, and then after that, actually being okay with investing in Meta ads and Google ads. For the longest time, I just had a brain block around the ROI on that. So I started testing it. And once you sell that first roof from, yes, I had to pay $600 for the lead, but we sold the roof and we got the margin on it. I'm like, okay, this formula still works, even though it's expensive up front. This project's kind of expensive. So
Yeah.
it kind of balances out. So getting that through my head, that was a big game changer too, of, and then trusting somebody to actually run those ads for you. I'm trying to run a roofing company. I'm not trying to run a marketing company. So get that to the professionals to do. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was the big change for me.
I've seen a lot of people who try to run their own ads. I myself have tried to run my own ads, and I can tell you it is a very expensive endeavor that often results in next to nothing. I'll never forget my first company. I got all excited about Google Ads, and I went in, I built out all these campaigns. I think I put like a $5,000 a month budget on it, and then like I don't know, got busy, got distracted, just wasn't managing it. I was like 2 months went by and I logged in. I was like, oh crap, I'm 10,000 in the hole and I have not a single lead to show
Yeah.
for it. Like, not even a lead, much less a customer. And, immediately cut that off. And I was like, man, I don't know. Like, but, I think it's so important that you find somebody who is very, very good at it. They know how to do the local targeting. They know the different, nuances of both the Google ads, the meta ads. I'm curious, have you seen one working better than the other, or kind of how's your performance been from Google versus Meta?
Um, they're probably about the same right now. We spend per dollar though. I think Meta's probably doing a little bit better on the actual lead generation, but the lead quality through the Google ads are much better. I
Yeah,
think we're seeing, higher intent purchasers come through Google because they're actively going to Google and searching for the service that they need, compared to the Meta ads that are disruptive, right? They're going through their feed and then we pop up, not necessarily that they were thinking about needing a roof replacement right now. Um, and that started with us. We ran a whole bunch of Meta leads with a different company in fall last year. I think we ran 27 or 28 appointments and we sold one or two. And our normal close rate's closer to 40%. They're just, lower quality, low intent leads. They're just like, oh, I filled out a form. I guess I have to have this appointment now, when
yeah,
they weren't real. I've driven by a lot of those houses. A lot of them haven't had any work done anyway. So they weren't really ready to go or intending to actually get a roof. So the Google ads, I think, they're a little more expensive, but I think the leads are better.
yeah.
Not that you can't get good leads on Meta. I think we might just still be figuring that out. But yeah,
It definitely feels like, because we run both Google and Meta. I mean, Google feels like it is a lot more of a sure bet. We spend a whole lot more money there. It's that search intent, like the
yeah,
person is intently looking for what you're offering, versus, like you said, the disruptive, just showing up in someone's feed while they're scrolling and, doing who knows what. I think
For sure.
we would echo the same experience, lower quality. You're probably paying more for a Google lead than you are
Yeah.
for, a meta ad there. But, it does I think it takes, two very different skill sets. Somebody who really understands each of these platforms, and, Adam and his team are, really good at it. What do you, from a monthly, like, budgeting standpoint, like, how much do you spend on these, and do you equally allocate budget to both, or do you, have a heavier weight on one or the other?
No, we're much heavier on Google.
Yeah.
We're getting that. I think that's the impressive part with Meta, is the reach you can get for the, couple bucks a day. I think we're spending less than $20 a day on Meta, and we're in, the hundreds a day on Google. But yeah, for the number of people that you can get your brand in front of for $5, $10, $15 a day on Meta, compared to having to spend six, 800,
Yeah.
1,800, $2,000 a day on Google, depending on what you're trying to do. There's always the brand awareness versus the lead generation, right? So I think a lot of in my mind, at least in our marketing plan, a lot of our Meta efforts are just for that pervasive, brand awareness. So we are showing up on people's feeds regularly for 2 or 3 years from now when they might need a roof replacement, not necessarily to get them locked in today. Versus Google is, we want the people that are looking to get a roof replaced in February,
Yeah.
2 weeks from now. That's who we're looking for right now on Google. So I think they're just slightly different strategies for us. More that brand awareness versus lead generation, which
Yeah.
platform we're on. So.
So when you get a lead, what's your sales process look like from that point?
Yeah, so we've been huge. I've met Luan, who I know you know. I've been talking to him for several years. Speed to lead is huge for us. So we have, the phone calls come in. Kyle answers them right away. It goes straight to his cell phone. After hours, it goes straight to my cell phone. We don't have a kind of overnight system set up. We don't get a lot of calls overnight right now, so I'm not too worried about that. But we call them back first thing in the morning. But it'll get logged into our Builds of Authority dashboard, and then also our Stanek CRM. Creates that new customer card for us. We enter in the notes and details, do some qualification questions, and then get them assigned to a salesperson, which is now Dennis. Dennis will review the information, give them a call back if he has any additional questions, or text with them and get them scheduled for an inspection. And at that point, we go through. We're looking at moving over to EagleView and the SRS integration. But right now we use iRoofing for roof measurement reports. So then the sales guy goes in, does the roof measurement, uploads it into JobTread, and then we just take some of the parameters over, and it builds out the estimates for the different Owens Corning shingle options that we offer. So we have the budget. It takes us from the customer calling in, from the minute the phone rings until we have an estimate prepared, about 12 to 13 minutes on most of the leads that come in.
Nice.
And that's full presentation ready to go sell the roof. So comparing that to 2 years ago when I did my first roof estimate, and it took me, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 hours to try and figure it out. It's impressive the volume that we can go through, even with how many manual steps that we have in it. Because everything's been documented. It's all got a workflow together. Our CRM talks directly to JobTread, so when that customer gets moved to an appointment getting booked, it actually creates a customer in JobTread for us. So we don't need to manually enter the information again. And then once those estimates goes out, we have, it ties back into our CRM to send additional follow-up updates. So everything's integrated super well, makes it super easy. And customers love going into JobTread and seeing, the weather reports and all the pictures and, all the documentation is in the same spot. Then go find that warranty information. We can use those markup tools on the photos to show them that one little thing that we were concerned about, instead of like, oh, look at this picture in this area. There's just a red arrow with a note that says,
Yep.
this is what we're worried about. So starting to use more and more of those tools. I think the biggest thing for me was coming into JobTread, never having used a CRM or a production management software before, and just being so overwhelmed with all the things that I could do. I think it was big. One, talking to Michael Villarreal, who's our uh, CSM,
Yep.
success manager. Yeah, uh, and having him just kind of break some of it down for me and really explaining it, which it's way easier than I thought it was. Just looking at it, and then we kind of just take one feature at a time and build that out, get comfortable with that, and then we'll go and find the next one and add that one in to kind of work on the efficiencies. I came into it thinking I needed to build everything out all at once and have it perfect. But I think I started with just getting the estimate documentation together. I didn't even have a budget. I was still doing like manual line item budgets to get it done. But I just wanted to get that first estimate out. I'm like, okay. And then I figured, oh, this is how you do the budget. And I built that out in the catalog. I'm like, oh, that's easier. And then next month added something else. So it's just kind of layering stuff on to now we have this, uh, really thoroughly, thought out and planned, customer experience built into JobTread, that people love. So
Yeah. That's awesome, man. And you're dead on. I mean, so many people, kind of look at it and feel overwhelmed, because there's so many things. What do you do first? It's about kind of taking that prioritized list, like, what is the highest priority? Okay, estimating. Well, let's go focus on that. We'll worry about everything else once we've mastered that. It's like it's not this like all at once type thing. It's about kind of growing into it and having, the ability to keep adding, keep enhancing, keep streamlining, over time as you need it and as you scale the business. And I think you're dead on there. Good approach. Sounds like, I mean, the Eagle View is pretty awesome, where it just like literally pulls all the
yeah,
measurement data directly into, your budget and the parameters. But like, you have to take the time to build out the formulas, which, you may already have there. But I think the neat thing, as you talked about, since you're already buying through SRS, is, being able to really create your budget templates with the SRS catalog and all the different items there, so that once you sell that job, like, a couple more clicks and bam, you're picking the delivery date, location, it's just so seamless. And, that's been the goal, working with, SRS and QXO and all these different, distributors, is that like we can further kind of just make this as seamless as a process, so that, firefighters like you can, be doing all, fighting fires, and, jobs are getting sold and materials are showing up and the work's getting done. Like, I mean, it seems like the dream, right?
definitely. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been impressive to see. I mean, you guys are always iterating on this thing and adding new features that the community wants. Even if it sounds like they might be a pain in the butt for you guys to do on some of those in the back end. But we definitely appreciate, how hard you guys work and your accessibility and yeah, how much you guys care about the product and the experience for everybody. I think it makes a huge difference. Yeah, I've showed JobTread to other roofing companies owners that use the other big, specific, roofing specific CRMs out there, and they can't believe what I'm able to do in JobTread, especially at the cost, because I know some of
Yep.
those other CRMs are just outrageously priced for marginal, software. So
Yeah.
I don't want to badmouth the other companies, but this is the only place I've been. JobTread's the only, software for this that I've ever used, but um, I can't imagine a better way to do a lot of the things. So
That's awesome, man. No,
yeah,
I appreciate that, and we definitely do work very hard to,
yeah,
again, keep listening to our customers. And, roofing's been a huge focus for us, lately. I mean, we've had so many people that, again, similar to you, whether they're building a home, putting the roof on it, whether they're doing roofing, they're doing some remodeling. Like, we see a lot of kind of people who kind of are dabbling in a lot of
and a
different
lot of different
trades. But like
trades, but
when
like
they
when they
find out like roofing, man, like, we can get in and get out. We don't even have to go inside the home. Like, they don't, it's very, exciting to people. We see that same kind of excitement with decks too, right? Like,
yeah,
they 2 weeks and you're done, a week you're done and you're still getting your
yeah,
50% profit margin. It is, it's pretty exciting to see how we can really, go deeper into these specific, industries within construction. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of work, and it's getting to know kind of each of the specific players, and, building the integrations and really kind of flushing out those kind of those workflows that will make it work for everyone.
yeah. I think it's really impressive how the JobTread platform is able to cross over so many different construction industries from, you know, I didn't even think about it when I went to Connect. You guys had all those pool builders out there. I never even really thought about, we don't do pools here in Seattle very much. So, um, but how different of a business model that has to be to, retail roofing, but we're able to work on the same system and it works great for both of us. It's
Yeah.
impressive to say the least. So,
Well, and that's where we think, again, a lot of the software out there sort of falls short because it's just they've pigeonholed themselves into just one area. But like, for us, like we focused on, the fundamentals of managing a construction business and found that it's very similar, regardless what trade you're doing and what, product you're selling, it's very flexible. If you want to sell a one line item job or 1,000 line items, obviously the more trade partners and the more different trades that are involved in any given project, the complication goes up, the demands,
yeah,
the organization, the scheduling. I mean, it does get much more complicated, and you have to have a system in place. But again, even for the turnkey, very quick, turn jobs like roofs, decks, things like that. Like, I mean, you still got to be able to stay organized and turn these
yeah,
estimates out quickly to win the business. And I think that's where a lot of businesses though can't kind of sort of have that overlap and that ability to let people sell how they want to sell. And I think we've done a good job at that.
for sure. Yeah.
So I'm curious, where do you want to take this business? I mean, to go from 1 million to 4.5 million. I mean, that would be a huge jump. What's the bigger vision here? I mean, what's the next 5-10 years look like for you?
So my big goal for this year is to wrap up my 10th year of firefighting and retire from firefighting, go all in on the business. So, the number wasn't just one that kind of came out of thin air. It's a number that allows me to take enough money out of the business for my wife and I and my daughter to live our lifestyle that we have in Seattle. So, that's the big push behind that. Um, I do have a 5 to 7 year kind of goal of scaling it to either sell or get a general manager in place and just kind of advise. So, getting it to a certain size, I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but 5 to 7 years is kind of the runway I'm looking at. I get bored sometimes, so kind of planning ahead to knowing that there might be that point in the future where I'm, ready to be mostly done with it. Is kind of what I'm planning for. Either to retire, sell it and potentially retire early, or sell it and get into a new industry, or coaching or consulting, something like that. Yeah, so those are kind of the big goals looking forward. I think next year, assuming we hit our goal this year, next year will be kind of like a base camp year, to kind of reorganize, make sure our margins are where they want to be, kind of tighten the systems up a little bit. Because I've heard a lot of horror stories of the $5 to $10 million in the roofing range being kind of this no man's land. So I'd want to do another pretty aggressive jump from kind of this 4.5, 5.5 base camp to get to 10 and above, where I can make some of those key hires and not just sink in overhead for a couple of years trying to slog through it. So
Yeah.
that's a couple of years down the road. But time to start planning now for that kind of stuff. So
No, that's great, man. And again, I think at the end of the day, it's the first million's always the hardest.
yeah,
As you keep growing, it doesn't, it's not nearly as hard as getting it off the ground, but it's a different set of challenges, right? And
for
so,
sure.
like, I think as I'm sure Mike and everyone has shared too. I mean, it's about building the right team, having the
Yeah,
right people, doing this with you, and it is about planning. It's about execution and having systems and processes. And again, you can build a very successful construction business, but like you got to have a strong foundation. And so it seems like you're putting a lot of effort and focus on that. Obviously having great partners like Adam and Kyle and Mike Claudio, and those people are going to be invaluable to make sure that you have set yourself up for success. Because again, a lot of people they start growing, they see the success, they have the cash flow, and then they don't make the right investments. They start to kind of sit back and think, oh yeah, we can just kind of keep going and doing it the same. And it's like, man, like you got to keep improving, and focus on how do we keep getting better and just not get complacent. And I think that's what will help you kind of get to that 10, 20 million, and above.
definitely.
So it's awesome that again you've surrounded yourself by the right people to hit that, and I have no doubt you will.
Definitely. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Mm.
Also,
So
big goal for this year too is to be roofer of the year at Connect next year. So
All right.
And I got to put that up there.
Love it. I mean, growing from 1 to 4.5, I not sure how many people out there are doing that, but, I'll hold you to it. We'll see how you
All right.
do.
Sounds good.
Just kind of look as we wrap up here, and I really appreciate you sharing everything. I'm curious, like, when you think back about this career that you've had, building Tappert homes, and now, the roofing business, like, what advice would you give to others who, maybe in a similar situation earlier on, trying to decide, do I go full time? Can I build this? Like, are there any like kind of key lessons that you've taken away that, maybe you wish you would have known earlier on, that like you think might be good advice for someone else?
Yeah. I think the biggest one, don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to, look dumb. Like nobody knows getting into it. I don't know this next step, what I don't know yet. So always ask questions, reach out. You might need to go outside of your direct community to find, other construction business owners that don't have that scarcity mindset and are very open to share and, help you grow. So finding a group like Win Rate, or finding a, builders dinner or builders group, in your community that, of like-minded business owners, just kind of build those people around you, to help guide you and get that mentorship. And I think invest in systems earlier than you think you need. Doing it on a notepad and text message will only get you so far, and you scale into a headache super quick. So, making modest investments in some of those basic systems, even Google Workspace, so you have a whole platform where you can keep everything. Getting on, JobTread. Just build, like you were saying before, building the foundation before you scale it. I think those are a couple of the biggest ones. And then also remember, or figure out why you're doing what you think you want to do. If it was just a thing of convenience, that could be fine. Just recognize what is really leading, your actions into what you're looking to do. Because once you have that clarity, building out your mission, vision, core values, I think that makes a lot of the decisions for the business and which direction you're heading a lot easier.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mike, you clearly are living it. You're in the thick of it. You're making the right moves. You're building the right systems, building the right team, niching down, being very, very intentional and focused. And again, I have no doubt that you will be able to hit your goals this year and every year coming. When you keep that same mindset, it really is so important. And I'm just excited to be a fly on the wall, be this software vendor partner of yours, but
Right.
like to see your success, man. Like, again, like we need more people who are truly, serving as role models for others out there, because you can build a very successful business. Again, obviously, even while doing firefighting, while doing other things, like it takes that intentionality and that key focus that you have clearly proven your ability to do. So, again, really, really excited to see your future and where your success takes you. But, thank you again for coming on and for sharing this, because I think a lot of people need to hear your story, because I know they're taking every job that comes their way. They're just figuring it out as they go. And like, again, that's only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
So for those out there listening, like, again, learn from Mike, invest in the right systems, the right coaching, the right marketing, get those partners who can help you be successful, and invest early on. You don't need to wait until the wheels start spinning off. Know your why. I mean, all of this advice is so great, Mike. So thank you again for coming on, for sharing this. I really appreciate you coming out to connect this year. Look forward to continuing to see all your future success.
Yeah. And thank you, Eric. And thanks the whole JobTread team for what you guys do. We
It's our
appreciate it.
pleasure. Thanks, Mike.
Awesome.
See ya.
So yeah, thanks.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.